So, how did you get into this career?
Well, it actually started as a kid. I was a child in the '60s, during a time when the Brewers weren't around here, and so the Cubs were the team of choice around here. Channel 15 carried a lot of the Cub games, and so I became a Cubs fan. And the first time my dad took me down to Wrigley Field, which would have been around 1972. When he took me down in there, I can distinctly remember walking through the vomitory, which is the ramp that goes up into the seating bowl, and walking in that vomitory up into the seating bowl, and just, of course, it was a sunny day because all games were day games back then, and just seeing that ballpark in the sun with the ivy on the wall and the breeze blowing the ivy around, and I thought to myself, boy, would I love to take care of a place like this. And that was, I was 12 years old at the time.
Yeah.
So it kind of always stuck in my mind that I'd love to take care of a ball field like that. And then when I got into college, I didn't actually first go into turf. I actually went into meteorology first, which was my other love. And I struggled with meteorology. I struggled with calculus, actually, meteorology. And eventually I decided, you know what, I'm going to give up meteorology. I took a year off and then ended up going back to the UW to get a degree in turf with the goal of becoming a major league groundskeeper someday. So graduated in May of 84 from the UW with a degree in soil science, specialty in turf and grounds management, and by the spring of 1985 I had become employed by the Orioles as the new assistant head groundskeeper, and then took over as head groundskeeper in February of 91. The last year we were at the old ballpark.
Gotcha. All right.
Kind of a long story, but there's the whole history right there.
What does your typical day look like?
Now or back then?
Back then.
Back then? Well, on game days, we typically get in about, if it was a day game, we'd get in about 7. If it was a night game, we came in at 8. And if it was a night game, we would be there till roughly around midnight. Okay. So you're working roughly about 16 hours. Day game, depending on what time the game started, if it was a 1 o'clock game, typically we'd be out of there by 4 or 5 o'clock, unless we had to put the tarp on because there might be rain coming that night, in which case we would have to wait till the shadows of the stadium covered the infield before we could put the tarp on. Because if you put the tarp on with the sun out, you can burn the turf under there if it sits there for a long time under the sun. So, game days, it varied. Day games, typically, I'd say about a 9 to 10 hour day. Night games about 16-hour day. On days that the ball club was off, it'd typically be about anywhere from an 8 to a 10-hour day. And there was more work. People think that you only come and work on the days that there's games, but there's actually more critical work that occurs when the ball club's on the road, because that's when you really do all your technical work to the turf or to the infield dirt or things like that. Maybe you're resloping the mounds, whatever it is. That's when the real technical work occurred. During the home stands, it was pretty much just a routine maintenance type thing every day.
What did you like most about your job?
I loved everything that had to do with me being out on the field, working with the tools, working with my crew and staff. Anything like that I could do, especially working with the staff. I always said that the most fun that my crew ever had was when we all worked together on one project. Quite frequently you're working and there'll be different people on different projects going on around the field, around the facility. But when we would get all together working on one project, that was when we had our most fun. And you had to have a pretty thick skin because you'd be picking on each other for a long time. Because you got to remember that in our industry at that level, we work about 2,500 hours in the course of about 8 months. Yeah. Whereas most people only work 2,060 hours in the course of a year. So we cram all this time together. So we're literally living together, that staff, during that 8 months. So it gets to be like family, and you pick on each other, and you have fun, and everybody knows it's all in good fun. It's it's never anything serious, but that's when we really had the fun, when we'd work together on a big project, and because we were just lighten each other up,
Yeah.
and I was open game just as much as the rest of the group.
Yeah.
And we played a hell of a lot of practical jokes on each other, but we always got the work done. The work was always
Yeah.
number one. As long as your work was done, you could screw around all you wanted.
Yeah. All right. Explain what Beacon Athletics is.
Beacon Athletics is a almost a 70-year-old now catalog company that sells equipment and materials to athletic field managers, people who maintain sports fields, football, softball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, all those kind of things. So we provide the equipment, whether it's maintenance equipment to maintain the fields, or it's equipment to equip the field, such as goalposts and backstops, and scoreboards, benches, bases, you name it. But the majority of our business, I would say about 85% of our business, has to do with baseball or softball. So we're very much a niche company.
Gotcha. What do you do for West Madison Little League?
I've been involved with West Madison Little League since about 2002, roughly, when my son was old enough to start playing there. And then they discovered who I was and wanted my help, and they needed it. And so for a long time, I served on the board and helped oversee, train, everything else, the people who maintain the grounds and the facilities. I exited the board last October, mainly because I moved out to Barneveld, so I'm like 45 minutes away now. I still consult with them. I'm still involved with what they do there. But a lot of my time is spent, at least in the past, was spent planning on upgrades to the facility, facilitating those upgrades, and finding the contractors, getting the pricing, doing the design work of what we wanted done, that kind of thing. And then, of course, like I said, helping train and facilitate the progress of all the normal maintenance work during the course of that time, train the crews and make sure they were doing things right and that kind of stuff. So.
Gotcha. Are internships common in this career or field?
They are now. They weren't when I was coming through the turf industry back in the early '80s. There were very few internships in sports field management. But now almost every major league and minor league club has interns. And that explosion happened actually back in the 90s, once the turf programs really got big for sports turf. Before the 90s, most of the students that went to the turf programs around the country at the colleges went towards golf. And now that's still pretty true, but the numbers of people in sports turf have grown significantly, and golf has gone through a downturn, and so you see more and more kids turning towards sports turf, but still golf course work is still the biggest demand because there's a lot more golf courses than there are sports fields. So I forgot what the question was.
Are internships common?
Internships common, yes. So yeah, so that you can get an internship at just about any minor league or major league club nowadays. Most of them are paid, but there are some unpaid out there. But I would say the majority of them are paid. So.
Gotcha. If there were jobs or internship openings, where would I find them?
The best place to find them would be probably through the Sports Turf Managers Association, which is a national organization that has as its members everything from park and rec groundskeepers to schools, professional facilities of all different sports, not just baseball, but baseball, football, soccer, you name it, any professional sport that's played on natural or artificial turf. So there's all levels there. I mean, we have people from Little League all the way up to people in the Olympics and in Major League Baseball and NFL football and Major League Soccer. So they have, especially at their annual meetings down in or wherever they hold them each year, that it rotates around, but every January they have a major conference. And this year it'll be in this coming January. It'll be in Fort Worth, and they have job boards down there. They have two boards. They'll have one for internships, and it's chocked full of advertisements for internships. And then there's another board down there for jobs, and they're usually chocked full of job openings as well. And that's where the majority of the guys go shopping. And we'll have a lot of turf students who are students at a lot of the turf schools around the country down there for the show. There's competition down there for the turf students where they compete against other schools. They have a big exam that they take, and they compete to see who gets the best score, that kind of stuff. So the STMA conference is probably the best place